sorry. I can't help myself. That's what's up. All these sound effects happening, all these things just happening one after the other. I guess that's the nature of reality, though. Welcome to the most random show you could probably find anywhere on the internet. Random show about who knows what. It's hard to say. Yeah, it's December 7th. It's sometime, somewhere. Also, I feel like I'm forgetting something. It's happening. It's really happening. It's really happening. It is this specific date. I'm just gonna click over here. See, it seems like things are actually streaming to the internet. Now, all we need now is some good content. Now, you saw at the beginning, I got this faucet running. This is a faucet. It's water coming out of here. I guess I technically pay for this water to be able to turn on this faucet off and on whenever I want. But I was thinking about my deep-seated feelings about, the planet and everything that's involved with saving it, and just sort of the global green cult that is getting formed, and how it really it hurts me on the inside to leave the faucet running, right? You're damaging everything. How could you possibly be wasting this water? Even if you're doing it to make a video, like, it's still just a crazy waste of water. The water's just flowing into the sewer unused, untouched, just from the faucet back straight into the sewer. And, maybe this whole content idea war that's going on these days, this is sort of the symbol for that. Like, do I have the right to do this? Is this something that should be allowed to me if I so choose to waste this water? Should I be allowed to post a video of me wasting the water? Not even with any sort of, pro or con. It's just this happened. I did it. I may be sorry. I may not be sorry. But it happened. Should it be allowed to happen? Should there be some sort of meter or sensor or other sort of device installed in all of our homes that makes sure that we're actually using the thing that we're paying for, right? That we're actually home when the lights are on. Would that make you feel better? Would that make it work better? The planet in general. Would this all just be a good thing? Right? Should we be allowed to just talk and post whatever we want on the internet, or should we have controls put into place? Maybe there are some things where you should control. You should definitely watch out for the boogeyman trying to steal your soul. But are there also possibly areas where, yeah, it might be a little risky to leave the controls off? But people are going to sort of feel better if they're able to waste their own water and, choose for themselves what is good conservation. Might be better for your feelings, but I don't know if people are just left to their own water wasting techniques, if we'll ever actually curb consumption, because people end up using whatever they feel like, whatever they think they need. And telling them otherwise is it's not going to do a whole lot. Maybe make you feel bad about wasting the water or using it in the first place. But again, right, I guess my sort of favorite topic to come back to. Should it be allowed? Should it be condoned? Should it be villainized? Should it be banned? Should it be cut? Should it be canceled? And just insert many other sort of ideas or concepts in place for this dripping water faucet. I mean, maybe possibly interesting. Now let's switch gears here real quick. I'm trying to just get on here. It's not like I really ever have anything massively planned out, but right, there's always an excuse to not get out here, to not get on the mic and start to make a fool of myself, because maybe you hear that sound in the background. That's the laundry. That's the washing machine running. It's washing my clothes and definitely like messing with the audio signal. But is that a reason to not do the show? I mean, I guess that could be a pretty good reason to not do the show. I got to do my laundry. But I'm also just here. I might as well. And some people were asking why I was away for so very long. And I guess the truth is I don't exactly want to say, but I'm trying to find a balance between real life, doing the things that you have to do, doing the things that you want to do, and then doing the things that you need to do for your spirit soul reasons, right? Balancing all those different things. And so I guess sometimes in my life I can find a balance and be doing both of those things simultaneously. And at other times, well, those things seem to get split out a little bit more. So I think if you're able to function in this world, you can swallow your pride for at least 5 minutes and move forward. But yeah, the spirit is always left searching for more. So I guess that's all to say that I'm back in my daily sort of routine around here, and I feel my need for the podcast can, it always just kind of creeps back in when other things aren't fulfilling in just the right way. Yeah, so that is really all to say. There was a big real life event that happened, and then I was not here. I didn't have time or even the deep-seated need to communicate, but in the end, it always circles back. So that's gonna be my attempt, just to get on here and just tell you about whatever is directly in front of me, because I think it's, if we start a discussion, then it goes further. If you just read the article, then, well, I don't know. You might just stay in the same place or not really think about it too much more. You'll just suck down the info, and then, as will I, right? You just you read the words. There's no real stopping the magic, the power of any of these articles are going to have on you. But as the theme is, it seems, just to have some conscious activity, to have some brain synapses firing. What if I talk about it a little bit, and if I start to make sense, it might make somehow sense to you, and that our consciousness together will have been shifted in that sort of exercise, and will have gone farther than we would have had we just stayed silent. Yeah, because somehow, I mean, I guess most people consuming this it is very passive, but something about this whole community-based live YouTube thing seems to encourage a little more exchange, a little more brain power. So, right, I was just reading about this. This is just it seems endless. These stories about Nug. I could do it backwards. Nugman. He's into deadly. Gnitush. And I'm always sort of questioning these sort of stories when they happen on a military base or something more official is happening. It always seems like they're hinting at there being a larger story, right? Investigators are looking into whether the shooting was terror-related as a possible motive, but it's still early in the investigation. It's still early in the investigation. And what does that mean? That it was terror-related? That it wasn't? What do we got here? The king said that the Saudi people were greatly angered by the barbaric actions of the shooter, and that this person in no way, shape, or form represents the feelings of the Saudi people who love the American people. So this is something sort of Saudi Arabia adjacent, because the man was a Saudi national. Maybe he was somebody involved in the government, or as some other sort of. This all just has all these echoes from the good old Las Vegas days, when the pyramid was behind you and the country music was flying through the air, and other things were flying through the air. All these same feelings of maybe not a real person doing the thing that they're saying, the Saudis being involved, something about the Saudis covering some aspect of the story up, that there seems to be some sort of battle going on, and it really does seem like an actual battle between different factions, but it's not what ends up being represented in the major media, what ends up being told, the story. But again, in the news, something bullets, something Saudi. And I don't. You right? Is it just a harmless story? Did you let it fly under your radar? I mean, I know it flew more under my radar than it did after I started talking about it just now. So I guess that's sort of what I'm talking about. It worth having a little talk every once in a while, because all of these things are just meant to sway you and push you in a direction. And the antidote seems to be find out what the direction they're trying to send you in is, and then ask yourself, why would they want to do that? Why would they want to do that? And I think something about just the general asking of questions is helpful. breaks the spell. It gets you out of the thing. Because there's a very obvious spell being cast with this particular article. I think it's pretty obvious, but we might as well just go through it real quick. Right, some real bad things happened in Chile. Wasn't this the guy? This was the country where the coup was happening and people were getting kicked out and all sorts of bad things were happening. Governments being toppled and just general pain. So, what's a good way to cover up all of that nonsense and bring it back to sort of the global on-brand narrative that we're talking about? Well, what if like a song or some sort of cultural event happened in this country to show like a couple things that everything is okay and chill, and that also the global sort of what other word would you use? Sort of agenda is still in place and being pushed in all aspects of life in that country. And as you see it happening in that country, you more easily suck down what's actually happening in your country in your personal vision, or it makes you more outraged that somehow your group or culture has not properly aligned speedily enough with the shifts in this global, whatever you want to call it, pre-approved culture that we are all sort of heading towards, where don't get to leave the faucet on, don't get to talk or do things without pre-approval, and definitely don't want to go freaking anybody out with any sort of social interacting. Right, and it's such a hard conversation to have even these days. I mean, because hurting and just getting people to do stuff that they don't want to in any situation is real bad and should not be condoned in any meaningful way. But that is the hard part about all of this material, all of this discussion that's happening. If you call out what's actually being called out again, right? If you call out the actual program here, you may come across as sort of anti-feminist, anti-woman, and just a just general bad person, troglodyte that doesn't understand the danger that people are put into on a daily basis. Like, there's definitely no denying any of that. But at the same time, right, it has this chilling effect. If you're terrified of any friends or just any sort of people within your contactable range, if you're terrified of them misconstruing any of your advances or friendly touches in any way, right? Especially if you don't have a sort of an aggressive masculine quality to yourself, then it's gonna have this chilling effect. You're gonna end up not calling that girl that you had a crush on. You're gonna not maybe touch somebody on the shoulder when you were having a good time with them, and just little by little things will be eroded, I think, until we're all just at home on the internet and not talking to each other anymore. Actually, wait a second. Isn't that what's already happening, like, right now? Do I sound like a crazy person for saying that? Right, but all of this is just a super good distraction technique from, right, the true story of what's actually going on in Chile with the whole coup happening. And of course, this coup is not really mentioned in any sort of meaningful way. We're just going to focus on the viral nature of these powerful women and how awesome that is. And oh, look, here's another article about Greta Thunberg. Right? Same kind of discussion, same type of debate happening. I guess that's once you see the tactics, it's easy to sort of collect them all, because it really is the same conversation going on with climate shifting and all that, right? There isn't possibly a person or a being that is attuned enough to the crisis. And you would probably find people that feel the same about rape culture and feminism in this general global society, right? They're just it's going to be a hard line, and you're going to be pressed up against it, and hopefully you will choose the right path, because another way will lead to nobody being your friend anymore. And who wants that? Honestly, who could possibly want that? Okay, just spend a little time there dialing in these images. I just want to check over in the chat, see if anybody's out there. Looks like a pretty limited chat this time, but I'm not gonna let it get to me. We got the real truth in the house. That's my homie right there. Yeah, the real truth. I don't think I've seen you around here before. I appreciate you being in the chat. It is one of my questions as well, that if I have some subscribers, if I have some people that I'm friends with here on the internet, and I start a live stream, that, like, where are they? Did they not? Maybe they're busy, you know. I'm not gonna let it get to me, cause me just doing my thing. Well, that's part of it too, you know. And it's super fun to interact with people. But it's also just helpful for me to just do my thing. So, it's actually the title image that I've used for tonight's news briefing is from this Japanese cartoon, Neon Genesis Evangelion. And I'm almost through. I got a couple more minutes left of the last final thing, so don't give it away. Although, how could you? But I still wanted to just bring you some of my thoughts, some of the images from what's going down. It's always really interesting to look at culture and content from, you know, a good decade or two ago, because you can see how wildly the culture has shifted. There used to be a time, you know, not that long ago, 10, 20 years ago, where objectifying women and doing sort of rapey, pedo-related things wasn't a big deal. It was just sort of a nod, wink, wink. Obviously, little boys are hot, and obviously little girls are hot, and that's just totally chill, right? And it makes me kind of cringe and feel weird even just saying that out loud. I do not condone the views of late 90s, early 2000s anime, but on the other hand, like, should be able to talk about the fact that that's how the culture was back then. That's something that was going down, right? That there is very much a very clear thread in this show, in these imageries, to get you to think that also, yeah, the teacher wants to make out with the kid and the kid wants to like it, and that's just part of the deal. I mean, this is definitely a touching scene in its sense because this has been the teacher lady the whole time. She's been sort of mentoring, not being creepy for most of the show, and then she definitely does get blown up like instantly right after this frame. So I guess sort of mixed messages on there. If you're gonna do stuff like kiss your student, then you may or may not get blown up right afterwards, and that you're probably gonna have to be okay with that result because yeah. But just, before I just ramble too long, I want to get into this symbolism here. Just calling out these shapes, calling them like I see them. Obviously, we have this inverted triangle on this dude's face, right? He's got the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 eyes, which is also interesting, right? Very, very symbolic show going on. We got the hexagons here in the background. And they call this guy Adam, right? Somehow the progenitor sort of basis of the big giant robots who turn out to not really be giant robots, but more sort of genetically modified, engineered subhuman humans, which, just ties into that whole Anunnaki master race, sub-race kind of theoretical ideas that seem to be floating around in this community. But I still thought it was very interesting, right? Normally that is a symbol reserved for the feminine or the submissive, and to have this be on Adam's face is one of his core elements, his design principles, to have this triangle here, I thought was very, very interesting. The downward facing triangle. And I talked a little bit about how many just from sheer volume crosses were happening in this show. Obviously, some religious overtones with Adam and Eve and that whole kind of element, but you see crosses showing up in the show nonstop, at all sort of important and also less important events. This is like a large explosion, and for some reason explosions in this show seem to create crosses like this. And it just brings up all those thoughts and feelings about what is a cross, what are the symbols associated with that you see. It really is sort of a symbol for man, right? With the arms and the head and the longer torso, that is all sort of tied in there. Man, and my washing machine's really going on that spin cycle right now. It's really just going to town. I don't know if you guys can hear it, but if I can hear it, you can probably hear it too. So the idea is to not worry about it. Square, square, square. What am I trying to say here? Just symbols upon symbols. This is really getting a little overkill here, right? They got the spear of destiny. They call it something else. There's a lot of sort of Christ on the cross symbols here, right? He's got the stigmata through both hands, but it's not Christ. It's an ancient robot dude. But that maybe, just maybe, this is right. It's always on the table. Is this a story from the past or from the future, or just a generic amalgamation of all of these symbols meant to distort and just sort of muddy the waters? Or is there some sort of greater truth being passed down here about mechanized robots and sentient beings and our ability to control them or create them? Somehow all tied up in these Judeo-Christian symbols that we all know and love. the the rib, getting stabbed, and all that kind of good stuff. And he really does sacrifice himself. The main character gets up there and has to fight again. With all these symbols, right? I think the 16th or something. Loving the numbers in this show. And so but before we get too bogged down in those weeds, you see the cross, right? I'm not making this up. This is a cross for days. And I think this is very interesting when they really get onto that next level, that next higher plane of existence, that the Sephiroth, the Kabbalah shows up as a sort of combined unification of the cross, and now we see in the cross this is less of that Christian cross, but the more four-cornered cross. And to see just all this, it's very blatant to see that this is really the cult that these creators and obviously everybody else that ends up sucking it down, watching this content, is brushing up against this ancient Kabbalah ritualistic stuff, right? And I don't even think that half the people that watch this show are going to catch that this is Kabbalah and the Sephiroths and that link in between the angels and those different moments here on the you know what they call it. Doesn't it have another name? Not the Kabbalah, some other thing. But you see what I'm trying to say. It's everybody seems to be in the same club at the top levels, especially with a big show like this in Japan. And it doesn't matter that it happened 20 years ago. This has just been going on for a super long time. And if you get those eyes to see, you will notice right away what content was created by the overlords and what content wasn't, because the symbols will be just overflowing. You'll see them left and right. The amount of dots. The hexagons. They're going to be aggressive. Seriously. Just aggressive hexagons. Okay, wait though, because you gotta look, like, this is trippy, right? Like, they don't even really explain what's happening in the sky. Things are meeting and just general apotheosis and next level rising up of consciousness, which, right, again, seems to be like a thing that's coming. Interesting that it's all being foreshadowed yet again in yet another show. Something about this, right? Trippy mandala, like, racetrack double overlaid, and they talk about how their magnetic fields are synchronizing and combining somehow in a certain way, and this is the symbolic representation of that. But trippy image, I feel like there's a lot more meaning that could get teased out of here, right? The 4 and the 8 with the cross over the top, and this sort of sacrificial, like the humanoid, because Rey is sort of a clone, sort of vessel for these experiments that factors in critically to this whole thing. I'm not sure what the corollary would be there, right? But just more crosses and crosses. Let's just get through this. the world just sort of disintegrates at a certain point. They're all going to get melted, and just more crosses. It's the crosses on the planet. And then you see some more crosses, and this is as everybody dies in this global cataclysm that, again, just seems to be foreshadowed at all times in all ways and time periods through different cultures. But that somehow this is mandatory and necessary for the rebirth. And then creepily, like, her face ends up appearing on all the bad guys as some sort of, like, we're all together as one sort of thing happening. And then the universe comes out of the stigmatized hands. Like, it really just goes off the deep end with the symbolism at the end. But I remember watching this kind of stuff when I was younger, just be like, yeah, they're just really into art. Like they just had their time, you know. They were like, we're just gonna do some crazy, just mind-bending images. Just, they're gonna be random. It's gonna be scary, but it's gonna be awesome, you know. And I just that is no longer what I think. It all just seems to be actually orchestrated and referencing the same thing constantly. Constant reiterations, copies of the same concept, of the same idea. Why would it be so important for us to know? What could possibly be that important that everybody needs to know it, feel it, think it subconsciously on all levels? There has to be an end game. Any other explanation just defies logic. It's too much energy over all of these years. All right. Anyways, I guess I will be heading out. I'm gonna go do other stuff.
Ending's difficult. Alright, that's a wrap. That's a wrap.